Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out today's episode of Hardball Sports Talk, brought to you by Hardball Sports Media. My name is Brandon, and today is our first episode with a co-host. We got my good friend here, Alex. He's wearing the Ducks jersey. I'm wearing the Iceland jersey. Excuse me. We did not plan this out. This just happened. We're both huge Mighty Ducks fans. This is something you'll probably notice. We'll have a lot of '90s sports reference movies. In fact, we were talking about the Lions the other day, and Angels in the Outfield got brought up. So chances are there'll be a lot of Sandlot, Rookie of the Year, Mighty Ducks, Angels in the Outfield references, Little Big League. So basically, if you're a '90s sports movies fan, this is your podcast. And we might even talk about those movies at some point. Who knows? But Alex, how are you today?
Good, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Hey,
How
no
you
problem.
doing?
It's gonna be a blast. Great. So today we are going to go over the Rule 5 draft for MLB. Yesterday was the deadline for players being protected from that. We'll explain to you how all that works. And then we'll preview this week's NFL games, spend a little bit of extra time on the Lions versus Bears game, and we'll see what else comes along. Oh, and the Lions made a signing that we will talk a little bit about, get both of our reactions on it. So my goal is to get a half hour here. We got a new software that we're recording on. Right now it's free, which we're going to do the free version for a little bit before I put any money in this, see if we like it or not. So with the free version, we only get 2 hours a month. So we got to be about a half hour episode right now. So without further ado, let's get started. Like I said, yesterday was the deadline for adding players to the 40-man roster for the MLB. If you're not aware what that is, basically you have a 26 or 27. I think it's 26-man roster.
Yeah, it's 26.
Yeah, it's 26 now, and that's the players that you see. So that's your Detroit Tigers have 26 players on their roster. The 40-man roster is those 26 players plus up to 14 more. Those 14 players are usually in the minor leagues. Sometimes they're injured though, and basically they're the ones that if somebody gets called down or injured, they get called up. So in order to be on the Detroit Tigers or whatever team is your favorite team, you have to be on the 40-man roster. The Rule 5 draft is a way to get players exposure. So what it is if you are in your draft year, if you are 18 years old when you get drafted and signed, you have 5 years to get added to a 40-man roster. If after 5 years you're not on a 40-man roster, you are eligible for the Rule 5 draft, which takes place during the winter meetings, which is normally in December, I believe, maybe January, but I believe December.
December 6th.
December 6th. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then if you are your draft and signing year, if you are 19 and older, you have 4 years after your signing date or signing year to get added to the 40-man. The catch is with the Rule 5 draft is if you get selected, the team that selects you, you have to be on their 25-man roster or 26-man roster, the whole season, unless if you're injured, obviously, then you go on the injured list. But you cannot be sent down to AAA or AA or whatever. So usually with the Rule 5 draft picks, it's usually pitchers. Mason Englert, for you Tiger fans, that's who the Tigers picked last year in the Rule 5 pick. And he turned out to be a halfway decent pitcher, if you ask me. The more known name for the Tiger fans would be Akil Baddoo, who was taken from the Twins that year. So the Tigers, Alex, you want to let them know who the Tigers protected this year from their Rule 5 pick?
Yeah. They had one of their pitchers. I believe it's Wilmer Flores, right? I think that's the name.
Yep.
That sounds right.
Yep.
And then the catcher, believe he was a second round pick. Um, Dylan Dingler.
That's a great baseball name.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's how you say his last name, but you know.
Yeah, it's Dingler. That's his last name.
Okay. It
Yep.
just kind of looked funny.
It does look funny. Dingler was a second round pick, like Alex said, in the year that Spencer Torkelson was drafted. Flores, off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure where he was drafted or what year he was drafted. Uh, but he has been in Erie this year, and he was the ace of the Erie staff. So really good, really logical decision there to keep him. And Dingler, the big defensive upside, kind of like Jake Rogers type player, where you're going to get some pop in the bat. He's probably never going to hit for average, but good defensive catcher, and you can never have enough of those. So smart two players to protect. I don't know if you found anybody, but I did some research today, seeing if there's anybody out there that I would like to see the Tigers go after, or if I could see the Tigers go after. The one player I did find, his name is Freddie Zamora. He's a shortstop in the Brewers system. He's coming off a torn ACL, which is obviously you don't want to have a player coming off an injury. But he does limit his strikeouts and he walks a lot, which, if you remember Scott Harris, when he signed on, his two things were control the strike zone if you're a batter and control the strike zone if you're a pitcher. And that's what this profile looks like here. Utility player, and that's another thing with the Rule 5 draft pick is he's going to be taking up a spot the entire season if you take him. So you want somebody that, especially if he's a fielder, you want somebody that can play around the entire field. And AJ Hinch has shown that he will move guys around. So if you have a guy that doesn't strike out much and can move around, that sounds like a guy the Tigers go after. So that's a name for me to look after. Did you find anybody that made you wonder?
I did. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of a little biased to him. He's an outfielder. He led the Wolverines to the
Of
title
course you.
game. Yeah, you know, I had to find someone, and I was like, hey, that name looks familiar. But Jesse Franklin, he has, I believe, he's had a little bit of injury in his shoulder. I want to say from what I was reading. Um, he's not like your typical power guy. The only couple minor things is he's really a corner outfielder and not a true center outfielder. Um, and we know how Comerica Park is. You kind of need a true center outfielder. Um, but he's got a little bit of power, a little bit of contact, which is obviously what you need as a hitter. Yeah, that's one of them I found.
My concern with going that route, and for the record, guys, we did not tell each other who we were going, who we would sign ahead of time. This is reaction for both of us here. Uh, my one concern with that player would be we just traded for Mark Hanna, or Canna, whatever his name is, from the Brewers. So outfield with Vierling, Parker Meadows, Riley Green. Who's the other one? Kerry Carpenter. You already got four outfielders on the team. So who's the odd man out then with that? Because again, you got to keep this guy on your roster for the entire season. So, but like I said, normally with these things, you take pictures. I looked through a couple lists of players that were intriguing to these article writers. I didn't see any pictures that had just wow in it. That doesn't mean there's anybody out there that Scott Harris and company don't like. There's just no stats or anything like that that stood out to me. So that's the Rule 5 draft. If you guys have any questions, leave us a message on the Facebook page or email us at hardballsports@gmail.com. We'll be sure to check that and get you guys answers on the Rule 5 draft. This is a little bit of a random episode. This is how it's going to be for the time being while we're trying to figure out all the kinks of how this is going to work and stuff like that. So we're going to go from the Rule 5 draft to the NFL because why not? While we're wearing hockey jerseys.
Hey,
So
that's just kind of how our conversations go in real life. Let's be honest.
exactly. So this is just us two talking at this point. So last week I did the math, and on our picks we did okay. Nothing too spectacular. Let me see if I can find that here. Oh, there it is. On the week, you went 8-6 in your games, and I went 10-4. on the season, which would be the last 2 weeks. You are 15-11. I'm 16-10. So I'm doing better. So, and we're also very competitive. We're basically brothers here. So there's gonna be always that competitive side of I gotta beat him and he's got to beat me. So
You got me beat by one game. All right.
hey, I'm winning.
You sure are, Brandon. You sure are.
Yep. That's gonna last for about 2 minutes because I don't feel good about my picks this week. So Thursday night football. So I'm uploading this on Thursday afternoon sometime. So tonight, the Bengals are traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Both teams coming off of heartbreaking losses. The Bengals lost to the Texans, which I said that last week. I'm like, Texans are playing good football. I would not be shocked if they'd win this game, but I went ahead and picked the Bengals to win anyways. And the Ravens lost the Browns. One of those last week in the NFL, there's 5 game-winning field goals, which is the first time in NFL history that has happened. So, Bengals Ravens Thursday night football. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Baltimore at home.
Yeah, I'm taking
Yeah.
Baltimore too. I just think Cincy, they're just not consistent enough. Baltimore had that hiccup last week against Cleveland, but they've looked really good the last couple of weeks. Uh, they beat up on our Lions and they beat up on the Seahawks. And I think just at home. Now it is a division game, so that does even things out a little bit. But I think Baltimore is just too strong for the Bengals. Next, we got the Steelers at Cleveland. The Steelers coming off a big win, or I guess not really a big win, but a win against the Packers. The Browns, like we just said, just beat the Ravens. Cleveland, it was announced today, though, is Deshaun Watson is out for the season, which that came out of left field. Like, I have no idea if he got hurt in practice. I know he's been dealing with a shoulder injury, but he just played Sunday, so I'm not entirely sure why he's out for the season. So they are starting. I don't even know who the heck they're starting at quarterback, to be honest with you. It was that rookie that they started a couple weeks ago that didn't really impress me that much. So with all that in mind, I took the Steelers to win this game because I just don't trust the Browns offense at this point.
I'm actually gonna go the opposite here. Our first disagreement. I'm gonna take Cleveland at home, along with their defense right now, because the way I see it, they are at least a top 3 defense. And with the Steelers, yeah, you don't know what Steelers you're getting. You don't know which quarterback of Kenny Pickett's is coming into town. Is he going to be a first rounder? Is he going to be, his normal third or fourth rounder? And I know they have been having issues with one of their star wide receivers, I believe. What's his name out of Georgia there?
Pickens,
Yeah. I don't know if he's still with the team. I did
I
read
th-
at one point he's been struggling getting along, I guess you could say, with his teammates.
well, I mean, when
As
you got Matt Canada calling plays and you're a wide receiver,
All right, pop question: who would you rather have, Matt Canada or Joe Barry?
well, I mean, Joe Barry is at the Packers. Is at the Packers DC.
Yeah, yeah,
So the hatred for him, I don't fully get because the Packers, at least, because we have a lot of French or Packer fans, and they all hate the guy. And I looked it up. The Packers are allowing like 20 points a game most games, which I mean, it's not elite defense by any stretch of imagination, but like you should be able to score 3 touchdowns in a game in the NFL. Like with how pass happy this league is, getting 21 points should be like rather simple. You would think. I mean,
you would think so.
you would think they'd be at least a 500 team with the defense that's allowing 20 points a game.
Yeah.
So now Joe Barry, like I don't like. I mean, he's not a great defense coordinator, but at least he's
Hey, I
keeping
say
the
they
team.
keep him. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah, well, you're a Lions fan, so of course we say we keep them.
uh,
I mean, I'm a Lions fan too, so I say keep them too.
yeah,
So you're having 2 Lions fans telling the Packers to keep their defensive coordinator. That tells you all you need to know about the guy, I guess. But Yeah, going back to the Steelers here, I agree with you that the Browns have an elite defense that can keep them in this game. And with Matt Canada running the Steelers offense, you never know what will happen. But I just think Mike Tomlin just somehow always finds ways to win despite Matt Canada. They've been outgained in I think every game this season, and they're 6-3. So
That's nuts.
yeah, so I mean, neither side of the ball are working, or the offense especially is not working that well, but they keep winning.
Yeah. Well,
So
you know, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, so
yeah,
there's that too.
which is yeah. But I mean, I don't mind your Browns pick at all. I think that's actually not a bad pick at all. If Watson was playing, I was going to take the Browns too.
Yeah.
But then about 4 o'clock, I found out that he's done for the year, and I'm like, oh, drunk. Like Steelers are going to win this game. Next, we got our game. We got the Bears and the Lions. Uh, Lions coming off probably the best game they've played in years. Not like talent wise or anything like that, but just entertainment wise. 41
Yep.
38 against the Chargers of Los Angeles. It kind of reminded me of the game a few years back on Monday night with the Chiefs and the Rams with Jared
Yes.
Goff,
Yeah.
where like it wasn't that it was bad defense per se, because I mean Lions did force a turnover. There was a lot of fourth downs, which Dan Campbell and Brandon Staley don't know what the word punt means. So I knew that was going to happen too. I figured
Yeah.
we'd see more fourth down than punts in this game, and I think that's actually what happened too. But and the Bears coming off a win against the Panthers. When I did my research for the game today, it does look like Justin Fields is going to play, which first game off an injury, but the Lions have issues against mobile quarterbacks. Um, so I'll let you pick first this one. Who you got, Lions or Bears?
Give me the Lions at home. I just the Bears. You don't know.
No.
You got like you said, Justin Fields coming back. He's mobile. We've seen how the Lions play against mobile quarterbacks, but I would say that the Lions' offense, which is hard to believe, can respond to whatever the Bears do, and they always have an answer, and it's kind of shocking to be honest.
Well, that's what Ben Johnson is. We were just talking about how ineffective Matt Canada is, and on the other end, you got Ben Johnson, who Matt Patricia thought he was, the smartest man in the room.
Just had to bring that guy up, huh?
You got to every once in a while. You just got to remind ourselves of where we were.
How bad he had this team.
Yep. So I'm picking the Lions in this game. Also, this game scares me a little bit though. Just coming off a emotional
Late
win against the
Sunday.
Chargers. Short, and then you got the Packers on a short week on Thursday. You got the Bears, who, let's face it, they're the basement of the division. I could see the Lions just being like, we got this game, and I, I don't think Dan Campbell is going to let that happen, and I don't think David Montgomery, the running back, is going to let that happen because nobody in that room wants to beat the Bears more than David Montgomery does. So don't choke over there.
Thank you.
But so I think the Lions will win this game, but I see this one as a trap game. And I don't know why, but I just don't feel good about this game. And we'll talk about this matchup a little bit more later when we talk about the Lions' new signing. But let's keep moving on here. Next, we got the Chargers heading to Green Bay to face the Joe Barry and his Packers defense. Chargers, they this year they are 4-5. They win one game and they lose the next. They win. That's how their season's gone. So this week they're going to win just because that's how their season's gone. Not only that, but I mean we saw it. Well, I didn't get to watch it up here because Packers game was on, and unfortunately this is the game we'll be watching too this week. But Justin Herbert, an elite young quarterback, that offense with Keenan Allen and what's the running back's name?
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, Austin Eckler. Thank you.
You're
They're just got too many weapons on offense for the Packers, I think, to even keep up with. I think the Packers defense, honestly, I don't hate them. I think they can keep this one respectable, but I just think there's just too much firepower on the Chargers for the Packers this week. So I'm taking the Chargers to win.
I would agree with you on that. I think the Chargers, like you said, last week was an emotional week for the Lions. I think it was also an emotional week for the Chargers because they're tired of losing these one possession games, and I think they are traveling a little bit, but I think they'll end up pulling it out in the end.
Next, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, who are all of a sudden one of the better teams in football, apparently, after firing Josh McDaniels. Why do teams keep on hiring Patriots coaches? Like, that never works.
It's never worked.
It's never worked.
It's
I mean,
never.
Bill O'Brien had moderate success in Houston, but besides that, it's never worked.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why teams keep doing this. But anyways, uh, the Raiders are going to Miami to face the Dolphins. The Dolphins coming off a bye week. I'm taking the Dolphins. I don't think it's gonna be close.
I would agree with you, especially with that offense that Miami has with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I would say Miami wins double digits.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. Next, we got the New York Giants versus the Washington Commanders. Uh, is what's his name? That one guy who's playing quarterback for the Giants right now.
Oh,
They
good
had that
old
one
Tommy
guy from
DeVito,
yeah, and he went to what,
Syracuse
Illinois?
grad.
Oh, Syracuse. Didn't he go to
Yeah,
Illinois at one point?
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
transferred there. So,
Okay. So yeah, I'm taking the Commanders.
yeah, I'm gonna take Commanders. Let's just move on from this game. Let's be
Yeah, we're
honest.
not. Yeah, there's not much to talk about here. The Cowboys against the Panthers, another game that I don't think a whole lot needs to be said. Carolina at 1-8, Dallas at 6-3. Dallas just loves picking on these terrible teams. That's what they've done all year. I don't see anything different here with this matchup. Cowboys
Yep.
easily.
Oh yeah, easily. Dallas all the way.
Next game, we got Tennessee at Jacksonville. Division game here. Jacksonville coming off a bad performance against the 49ers. One of the games you got wrong last week. I'm taking Jacksonville to rebound nicely this week in the division game. Rookie quarterback and Will Levis on the road. I just like Jacksonville in this spot.
So that's what we're doing. We're just gonna throw that in my face.
Yeah,
Like
you
Will.
know.
Okay. No. I'm
Yeah.
taking notes over here. I'll remember that. Uh, yeah, I'll take Jacksonville again. Will Levis did not look good last week. I don't even know what his stat lines were not good. Only because I had to pick him up in fantasy because both my quarterbacks were on bye weeks. I was thinking, I'll get his debut, Will Levis, and yeah,
Yeah.
that did not happen. So I'm gonna
No.
stick with Jacksonville.
There you go. Next, we got the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. Apparently, they're not punting on the season against the Houston Texans. The Texans, one of the more surprised teams in the league, if you ask me, this year at 5-4. C.J. Stroud is playing himself into the MVP conversation, which quarterbacks from that university typically don't do that. I'm going to take the Texans to win this game. I just think there's too much going good for them. And Arizona, yeah, Kyler's back, but they're just not that good.
Yeah, I agree. CJ Stroud is doing an unbelievable job in Houston. You probably can't even name one offensive player that he throws the ball to.
Nope.
Yep, exactly. And that
Unless
just
if Will
tells you,
unless if Will Fuller's still there, but I don't think
I
he
don't even know
is.
if he is, but that just tells
Yeah.
you how good he's doing, spreading the ball around to everyone. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm gonna take Houston. Yep.
Next, we got Tampa Bay, who at 4-5 are only a half game back in their division against San Francisco, who looked back to form last week against Jacksonville. I think San Francisco, with Trent Williams being back, I know they had a lot of injuries with Ayuk and McCaffrey, but to me, the biggest injury on that team was Trent Williams. And
Oof.
once he came back, I think that just solidified everything on that offense. I think that offense goes through Trent Williams. And if offensive lineman ever got an MVP vote, he would get a lot, if you ask me. So I think the 49ers are back, and I take them here against Tampa Bay.
I'm also going to agree with you on this. San Francisco looked like the normal San Francisco last week. Not to mention they did pick up the other edge rusher for the other side, playing Bosa, um, Chase Young, who should be getting more reps now that he was had a full game and full week of practice with San Fran. I look,
Yep,
I think San Fran's going to win this one easily.
yep. Next, we got the Jets and the Bills. The Jets at 4-5, keeping float here in the AFC picture. Buffalo at 5-5, losing on Monday night to the Broncos. And if you lose to the Broncos, someone has to get fired. So Ken Dorsey, their offense coordinator, is the one that fell on the sword. I personally don't think the offense is the problem with Buffalo. Granted, they're not doing as good as last year, but I just think that was an unnecessary fire. I think that Sean McDermott is scared for his job right now, and that's why that move was made. I just think though Buffalo, there's just too much firepower on that offense. I know the Jets defense is elite, but Zach Wilson is going to throw a stupid ball up in the air and it's going to get picked off, and because that's what Zach Wilson does. So I have Buffalo winning a close game here.
I'm actually going to go the opposite of you on this, and I'm going to take the Jets, 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 Jets. Mostly because you don't know what Buffalo team's showing up. Uh,
No,
I like you said, they just lost uh, a game that they should have won against um, Denver, and if they Buffalo learned how to count on defense, they probably ended up winning that game. But
oh,
that's
they
a
do
whole
win that game with it. Yeah, they do win that game with it, and that again goes back to McDermott, not the offense coordinator.
right, exactly. So I just don't know what Buffalo team's going to show up, so I'm just going to stick with the Jets on this one.
I mean, not a bad pick at all. The Jets are a good football team. Like that's why Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, and then he had to tear his Achilles week one on like the fourth play of the game. So, which as Lions fans, like you never root for a guy to get injured, but like I think Lions fans everywhere kind of chuckle a little bit on that one. Um, but anyways, moving on. I don't want to get in trouble with Jets or Packers fans for that matter at this point. We got the Seahawks versus the Rams. Seahawks 6-3, Rams 3-6. Rams. Brett Rippon has been playing quarterback, still great for them the last couple weeks. That they're like, you know what, we need Carson Wentz in town, and that's how bad things have been for LA this year. I don't know if Stafford. I don't think Stafford's gonna be playing this week. I didn't really look up though, but I would imagine that uh, Carson would be playing in this game. Something I listened to this podcast from the Early Edge. It's a betting podcast, and they were talking about this game. Sean McVay, excuse me, in his career is 9-1 against Pete Carroll against the spread.
Wow.
Knowing that, I'm taking the Rams to win this game. If you can keep them in possession, you never know what's going to happen. And at home, now I understand LA is not really actually a home field advantage because nobody actually goes. It's like basically more of a party than the game. But I'm taking the Rams to pull off the upset here.
Phew, I did not know that. That's an impressive
Yeah, I didn't
stat.
know that. Yeah, I didn't know that until I heard that either today. So
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna stick with my original pick, Seattle. Um, I'm still just kind of blown away by that stat, but give me Seattle on the road.
I mean, again, I was going to take Seattle until I heard that, and I'm like, and I don't know what the number is because that's not straight up. That's against the spread.
Yeah.
So, but still, against the spread, that means he's keeping the games close if he's the underdog. And you never know if you one possession game, march down the field, get a touchdown, steal one. That's where I'm coming from on this pick. Next, we got the Vikings who found new life in Josh Dobbs because that's a thing. Against the Broncos, who at the beginning of the year allowed 70 points to the Dolphins, and now they're beating the Chiefs and the Bills because sports.
Yes, that's the NFL for you.
That's the NFL for you. So Broncos at home, uh, they're playing good football right now, but I just believe in the Vikings right now. Now as a Lions fan, obviously I'm rooting for the Broncos in this game, but I just think the Vikings are playing too hot at football, and potentially Jefferson coming back. There's just too much firepower on the Vikings offense for the Broncos to compete with them. So I'm taking the Vikings to win this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off you. I'm gonna also take Minnesota. Towards the beginning of the season, I thought that Detroit is gonna sweep the whole NFC North. But the way Minnesota's been playing lately, I'm actually scared for the last 2 out of 3 games with them towards the end of the season.
Yeah, so the last 3 games for the Lions this year. Week 16 we have Minnesota. I believe that game's in Minnesota. Week 17 is at Dallas, and Week 18 is at home against Minnesota.
Yeah,
So you want to win as many games as you can right now for the Lions, and the schedule's on the more favorable side for the Lions to basically win out up to that point. Um, but again, like we just talked about, the Broncos beating the Chiefs and the Bills, so you don't want to take anything for granted.
no,
But the Lions need to win out basically up until that point.
yeah. I'm gonna stick with Minnesota.
And then finally, Monday Night Football, probably the game of the year. Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kelsey Bowl, the Super Bowl 2.0. This is one of those games. There's no wrong pick. I mean, I guess there's no wrong pick for any of these games, but this one there's really no wrong pick. Philadelphia, they've been winning, and I don't know how because their offense hasn't been anything special. Their defense outside the defensive line, their defensive line is why they're winning games, honestly. But the defense has taken a step back. They've lost both coordinators to head coaching jobs, and the stats show it. But yet they keep winning. The Chiefs, on the other hand, the offense doesn't look as good this year. Uh, Outside of Kelsey, Mahomes has nobody to throw to, and that's why the Lions beat them week one. Uh, I'm taking Kansas City to win. I just trust Kansas City at home. That's basically it. If this game was in Philly, I'd probably take Philly.
Yeah, I would agree. This game was pretty much a straight up 50-50 toss up. I mean, both teams obviously went to the Super Bowl last year. Both teams have been playing great as of lately. But I just got to say, with Kansas City, man, it's not about the star quarterback. It's
Oh
about the
boy,
backup quarterback who brings championships to the team.
who's their backup now?
Oh, you know who it is.
Oh, is it Blaine Gabbert?
Oh yes, sir. My good buddy Blaine Gabbert, championship all the way. Though he's never
Oh
won
boy,
one, but you know.
no, this is the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, this is
Oh,
Blaine Gabbert's year.
was he there when for the Bucks when Brady was there? So
You
he's
know,
been
he
around.
might have been. I think he did was actually. I think he was in Tampa
I
Bay.
think I texted you the night said Blaine
Yeah.
Gabbert finally a championship.
So
I've been
for
calling it all along.
so for those of you who've never heard him say this, uh, Alex and I have been friends since we've been 15 years old. Actually, before then, when he moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I still live, he's back on the other side of the state. But anyways, I don't even know when this started, but he just started calling Blaine Gabbert a championship, like Gabbert championship, and he just kept on going. And then finally he won one as Brady's backup, and you were like, "See, told you."
I did
So
tell you.
yep, you're only 5 years early on that one.
Hey, I still called it, right?
Yeah, you still called it.
All right. See, there's
So
a.
those are. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. I was going to tell you there's kind of a longer backstory which we don't have time right now of how I came up with that, and we'll have to talk about that some other time.
Yeah, because I don't even know how you came up with that, honestly.
I know. Fun fact: it does not have to deal with football.
What? You got a hot girlfriend or something?
I don't know. Why would I know that?
I don't know. I don't know. Champion off the
Yeah,
field.
he is a champion.
Yeah, because he's got a Super Bowl behind Tom Brady.
Yes, he does.
All right. One last thing for you guys today. The Lions added Bruce Irvin to their practice squad. To I don't really want to use the word help out on the defensive line because the guy is 36, I believe, 37 in that range. 36. Last he's been known for a Seahawk most of his career. In his career, he has 55 and a half sacks, but only 3.5 the last 3 seasons. So I don't see this one as necessarily a production signing, but I do see this as there's a lot of young guys on that defensive line. I think James Houston will be coming back here shortly. That'll
Hmm.
be a big help. You got Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, and then even on the interior, you got Aleem McNeil, John Comiskey, the big guy from Western Kentucky they drafted this past year. So there's a lot of young people on the defensive line and on the defense in general, really. So I think this is more of a locker room signing to help basically show the guys the way. Now, if you get a sack out of him, cool, that's bonus. But I don't really see this as a signing to help on the field, just because how much left is in the tank.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe if we're talking about, back in the day, good old Legion of Boom, Irvin, Bruce Irvin, then that would be a pretty good pickup. Um, but again, I think he's more like you said, locker room guy, leadership, someone who can come in and kind of teach these young guys. Not really like the right way to play, but he can help them get through stuff.
Yeah. So, is there anything you want to add to the Lions game? Anything that stood out against either San Diego or not San Diego? I keep doing that one. I do this one with the Raiders too. I call them Oakland all the time, but they're Las
Yeah,
Vegas.
that's all
Uh,
right.
so, and I didn't really mention the Vegas game either. So, is there anything between those two games that stood out to you or concern for this team going forward?
I will say that St. Brown is a pretty good wide receiver. He's
Well,
definitely carried this team to wins. It may not be game-winning touchdowns, but he's getting those first downs and extra yards that we need.
yep,
Um, and I'm kind of excited to see how they're going to be using um, Peoples Jones that they traded from Cleveland.
yep,
Um, he'll be first full game. See if he's used in the return game. Maybe he's going to take that old Marvin Jones Jr. Spot, here and there,
yep,
come in and fill in. So be interesting to see how they use them.
yep. One thing that I'll talk about the receivers here. One thing that I really like about the Lions receivers is they like to block.
Yes,
They and
notice
with a
that.
team that and the with a team that is a run first offense because let's face it, the Lions they've had 200 running yards the last 2 games, and you do that in the NFL, you're going to win. And that's, I mean, you can have the high power offense all you want. At the end of the day, you win by running the ball and stopping the run, and that's what the Lions are doing this year.
Yep.
They're running the ball and they're stopping the run. Now you'd like the pass defense to do a little bit better, but I mean they're so banged up in the secondary. It's not even funny.
No. All about
But
plug and play for right now.
yep. But the receivers every time we run the ball, I mean Montgomery had that 75-yard run.
Yeah,
Who's out in front blocking? Jamison Williams.
exactly.
He's not making the big catches that are going
They're
to
going.
show up the stat line,
Yeah.
and that's why nobody likes him because he's not making the play. Guys, he's making the play. He's not making the stat line play, but he's out there blocking for David Montgomery does not score a touchdown there without Jameson Williams.
No, and that was awesome to see JMO
Yeah,
waving him on as he's running down the field, like, "Hey, I got you. Just get in the end
yeah,
zone."
yeah. And I mean, a couple weeks ago, what game was it with Craig Reynolds block? Not yeah, Craig Reynolds
Oh,
block.
the running back.
Uh,
Yeah, that was a
yeah,
huge.
that
That was down in
yeah,
Tampa Bay. Came
yeah,
out of
that game.
backfield, threw a huge block for St. Brown to get in. I think he scored on that
Yeah,
and
I think he
gave the
scored
Lions
that
the
one
lead.
too.
Yeah,
So that's what I take away out of this Lions team is
yeah,
everyone's blocking. I mean,
everyone.
even the game against the Chargers last week, I didn't see this play, but you texted me. Malcolm Rodriguez had a block. Like they're putting
Yeah,
linebackers on offense to block. Like
yeah. They should.
I think basically what's going on is these players are coming up to Dan Campbell and saying, "I want to hit somebody,"
Yes,
and Dan Campbell's like, "Oh, that sounds so beautiful. Get out there
I
and hit somebody."
Dan Campbell wants to go out there and hit somebody too.
Yeah, he wants to,
Oh yeah,
So this team is taking on the personality of their coach, And when on his introduction press conference, when he's talking about biting kneecaps, we're all laughing and like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? But now you're seeing it, and they are knocking down their opponents. They are not letting them back up, and they're getting the last punch in. They're not, and they're keeping it in play. Like they're not doing anything after the whistle. The whistle blows, they're going back to their huddle. There's no stupid
Mhm.
penalties anymore. The very disciplined team. I
Very disciplined.
I don't know if there's enough. When we get closer to the playoffs, we'll talk more about playoffs and stuff like that. How far is this team going to go? I don't know. But this is probably the best Lions team we've had probably since the early '90s, with Chris Spielman and Barry Sanders and all those guys.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's an exciting time to be a Lions fan. But
I just want to
at the
mention
same,
one other thing
yeah,
about that Chargers game. I think I texted this to you with Montgomery's 75-yard touchdown. That wasn't even supposed to be the play call.
I think I heard that on the radio that he audibled out of that because I
Yeah.
had the radio feed
So
going on.
I think St. Brown did an interview in the post game, and he's like, "Yeah, I realized that we had the wrong personnel out there, and Goff saw it too, and Goff went up to the line and audible to the run play, and St. Brown's like, I didn't even know what to do, so I just started blocking whoever was in front of me. And next thing you know, 75
Tuck,
yards to the house.
yep.
I thought that
So
was awesome.
yeah, and that's just the personality of the team, though. The wide receiver, like, all right, cool, we're gonna do a run play. I'll block.
Yeah.
You know, St. Brown is. I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but for a second I am. Tom Brady in his sleep probably says the guy's name's drafted in front of him. To
Hmm.
this day, he uses that as motivation for whatever he's going to do next in his life. I firmly believe that he still has a chip on his shoulder from that, being a
Oh,
sixth-round draft
without a
pick.
doubt.
And St. Brown, he can, and everyone talks about this, it's over talked, but I love it. He can tell you every wide receiver drafted in front of him that draft class.
Hmm.
And some guys are just wired differently, and that's their motivation. And you can see it. They just that chip on their shoulders there, and they will play with it. And that's never
Yes.
going to go away. He can get a big contract, that chip's still going to be there.
Yes. I agree.
So it's going to be fun to watch him grow. Hopefully, he keeps playing out with the Lions. With all these good draft picks that Brad Holmes has made, it's going to come back to bite them because all these guys are going to want second contracts.
Yep, sure is.
Uh,
It's the way it has been.
but at the same time, I trust him. Like St. Brown in the fourth round. You got Branch in the second or third round, like up
Hmm.
last year.
Yep.
You got Laporta in the second round. So it's not like he's doing a one draft. It's every draft he's gotten.
He's been able to find the right guys for his team,
Yeah.
which is what you
So,
need your GM
yep.
to do is find the right guys for your team. And he's
Especially
had
in the
one.
draft.
Yeah.
Um, so that is pretty much all we have for you guys today. I think we're pretty close, maybe a little bit over the half hour mark here. Uh, Thank you guys so much for checking today's episode out. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because now with the video, I'm going to be uploading these to YouTube and also Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else you get your podcast. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Links for that is on the description. And you got anything else for them, Alex?
We'll talk next week.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next week.